Alright, this is a new generator built on 6/22/2025. And we're going to go draw through it first. Okay, so this is going to match the AR-10, AR-12. This is a locomotive generator. It's not a traction motor, but it's a generator. And you can see the rectifier bridges on four nice evenly spaced, four circular pattern with nodes, and then in the front you'd have for just like so in this one there's spaces between it because there's so much detail in here that if I touch this with this in the assembly, it would crash the computer. So this one's kind of done as best as I could without crashing the computer. It took me like 5 hours to get it all together and assembly because it kept crashing. And we'll show you the first part of it, which is the crankshaft 4. It should be up. It does not want to show crankshaft 4. Alright, then I'll just show you this. Alright, so without this is the frame in green, which has two ribbons on it. These ribbons have internal, they have little grooves in here, and these are the communicator bars. They're just basically strips that go between the rectifier bridges. And we'll take a look at it without the cage. This is the cage without the dial, circuit, servo, and gear planetary set at the end. So let's look at what this one is. This one, alright, let's look without the section view on. So this back here has a planetary sun gear. This front is your dialer. This one right here, a dialer, communicator, and servo, and that's in the front. So then it gets into, say, this one right here. Sorry, it's all part one. So this top ring right here gets moved by the planetary set, which makes it run clockwise or in the opposite direction of our regular servo. And then we have magnetos right here. These are four. They're served with a battery inside. And then over here, this ring, I was going to do some batteries inside of that too. So let's take a look at the drawing through the sectional view, and I'll show you the guts. Alright, here we have the dialer. It's missing this little corner stop. That's because it's for a real, that's the way it is. That's the way to draw them. Then we move from the dialer into a servo. And then this part right here is the communicator ring. It's got little pickups right there. We move through the servo, the communicator ring. We get to the speed dial. Then we move on and we hit the crankshaft rod, which I don't know if you ever watched the crankshaft rods, but basically it's a whole bunch of ribbons, dovetail plates. Okay, so it's a dovetail circular. You gotta think of these three rings right here as dovetails, and then like if you had a piston rod engine, you'd have a lobe. So I drew a little bit of a lobe here. So what you're gonna do is there's gonna be a series of 5 of these crankshaft. Well, it's no crankshaft, but this is the shaft, the crankshaft. So you'd have 3 of these set in different arrays, like a motor, like maybe like a 4-cylinder or something like that. But there's 5 of them, so we space them out differently, and then we would put maybe a stake here, stake there, little keys in between the dovetails to make them offset and not lock. So you might want to try a odd circular pattern, maybe 3 or 5, and then on the next one, so here we go. We have our first crankshaft rod, and that's got a winding on top on the that's connected to the outside of the crankshaft. This inner crankshaft, which moves into a capacitator ring, and then the capacitator ring in between there. Um, you'll see the next one is slightly a little bit larger than the first winding because it goes out some more. But this capacitor ring goes back to the dialer right there, and then this capacitor ring, and then so we're spreading the capacitor ring, this little thing to these little capacitors, this little capacitor, keeping the signal going. We get to the capacitor ring on the outside, and then we see that the wedge for the lobe is here, which if we do keys in here arranged properly, it will not lock. And then we move into another communicator sun. As you can see, the little brushes, and this is also with around the crankshaft lobe or shaft. This one has no dovetails, and then the next dovetail will repeat in the next piece. So we have winding picking up on the communicator here, and then over here we'd have you could see the so it's moving from the inside, collecting on the center, communicating, going to a stationary coil magnetron, and then into an outer ring moved by the planetary sun gear in the back, which then connects on the communicator, which would be on the quarter parts of these rectifier bridges. And in here you could see that in the straight ones I've added battery cells. I was going to do them all horizontally and across, or little square grids, but I decided to make them just a square offset. I could have done the same here, but I was rendering too much stuff at once. And then as we see, we went through the capacitor ring, first winding, then we had another winding with a communicator, and then the gear sun, and then we moved through, and then we hit another capacitor ring. We see now that the wedge has moved here, and then we move in another communicator ring, another capacitor ring. So these are all in series. So capacitor ring, communicator ring, crankshaft, capacitor ring, capacitor ring, capacitor ring, communicator, capacitor. It is back and forth, and then we get out to the last of it, and you can see this is this outer rim right here where my cursor's gone over. That's connected to the planetary gear, but since I couldn't have them touching because it would crash the computer because of all these little dots right here, those are windings. I said it for 100, but if you really did it, it's probably take 1,000. But the RAM would not do it, so just like know that that's the part of the drawing. Also with here and there. So I tried, you get too many of those, you put 1,000 sweeps in there, it starts crashing. And then we move on. We have planetary sun gear. This hole's cut out, so we can drive the drive shaft all the way through it. We hit the back, and then the sun gear, which is slightly off. This little rocker's off. I scaled it wrong. It needs to be a little bit up, so it's on the nodes. And then I'm also missing I also forgot to put there would be a pitch diameter circle in between here. I don't fuck with gears very much. And then right here, this outer edge turns this coil right here on the outer, so we were going clockwise, then this would go counterclockwise, reversing the power. And once again, we have our first servo emitter to start the motor with a communicator ring around it, and then it has nodes in the front of it, in the middle of it, and then a dialing circuit. So this is a new generator type, and this is what it looks like in the cage without the I got planetary gear set and the dialer on it. And then we had wanted to show you the crankshaft. Let me pause this and see if I can't bring it up.